Well, since 1999, there have been 8 treble winners, with this past season's PSG the most recent name on the list. And our morning footy crew last week had a little bit of fun doing a best treble winning sides tournament, and they picked the 2009 Barcelona team, who knocked off the 2010 Inter team. That was their matchup in that final tournament, and they picked that 2009 Barcelona team. So what do we think? Chuck, do you agree with how the guys landed last week?
I do agree.
You do? Tone, would you agree?
Yeah, I think so. That Barcelona team was really good. The Inter side was very good. They're completely different styles, but that was a team that was stacked in every single position. And in that time to win a treble, like those two teams, like it doesn't seem normal now. Like we look at them now, and PSG did it last year, but those days it was hard to win. It wasn't like you could just buy players and buy a team. The setup was completely different.
Okay, let's talk PSG, because they are the reigning Champions League champs and are going to try and go back-to-back, which the last team to do that was Real Madrid about a decade ago. So, Darian, why is it so hard in this Champions League competition for teams to go back-to-back?
Tony touched on it. I mean, there's so much movement now between teams. If your stock rises, you're going to get picked up by somebody else. When you're looking at opportunity, you know, even some players we mentioned earlier, Isak leaving Newcastle. You could be the star of Newcastle, but you could go be a Champions League contender year in, year out at Liverpool. There's so much movement. It comes down to also age of your team, timing, development. What's your mentality? Is this working in the tactics of how, you know, this era of football? Do you have the players in the right places peaking at the right times?
The odds to win, PSG lead the way, but they're tied with Liverpool. I mean, it's really razor thin when you look at just who the top teams are going into next season in terms of how, you know, the bookies see it. I
want to go back to what Darian said about the timing, right? Because if you look at just this season, in December, we weren't talking about PSG as winning a treble, right?
No.
We think about the group phase. But 3 weeks to go in the Serie A season, we had Inter Milan, who had a chance to win 3 trophies. And you talk about timing, they took a dip and ended up winning nothing in the end, right? So it is a lot about timing and how you grow into the season. Now the challenge for a PSG is, can you repeat? Like, can you do this again? Can you replicate what we saw a year ago? Because it was pretty brilliant at the end.
Yeah. And to add to that, it's one addition for PSG is what really changed the game, and adding Kvaratskhelia.
Yeah.
No one saw him coming mid-season. So can another club could do the same thing?
Well, Liverpool is another team that is in the mix to, you know, as a favorite to win Champions League. They're coming off of winning the Premier League last season. When you look at them compared to a team like PSG have a lot easier road in their league. I mean, this is a team that wins the league seemingly every year.
Don't poo-poo on Liga.
I'm not poo-pooing on Liga, Chuck. I'm just calling it what it is. The name of your podcast. Okay, but Liverpool, they're one of a few teams that are definitely contenders to win the Premier League title. You throw Arsenal in the mix, a team like Manchester City, Chelsea as well. Tone, how do you see Liverpool doing in the Premier League, and are they your favorite to win, or do you see another team kind of coming through?
Well, with the Premier League, I actually think in a lot of ways the Premier League might be harder to win for them than Champions League. I think this team, and when the Isak thing is a big thing for me, right? If this thing happens, I think they're built to win Champions League. I think we'll look at them as one of the favorites for sure. And I think that's where the pressure is for them. Arne Slot just came in and won the Premier League, right? He's done it now. We see these teams, now it's always about the next step for them. But if you're gonna rank like 2 or 3 teams in the world that could win a treble, they have to be there.
Yeah, 100%. Darian, how do you see it? Do you agree? Do you think that the Premier League is going to be tougher for Liverpool than Champions League to win?
Yeah, because you're tested week in, week out. You have a target on your back. I think it's a league where if a team at the bottom of the table could have a great game and topple you, and that's going to give them motivation. So I do think it's difficult, but if Arne Slot can get this team to build on what they did last year and make them multi-dimensional, especially if Alexander Isak is going to be there and changing that formation, like you said, maybe going to or was it you that said a 3-5-2 or something like that, that flexibility is going to be so important going against teams that want to topple you, or the teams like PSG who have that energy in the youth and building off of last year.
Yeah, that depth is going to be so important when you're trying to compete on multiple fronts. But Chuck, when you look at the teams that Liverpool will be competing directly against at the top of the table, do you see Manchester City, Arsenal, or Chelsea being the biggest threat to what Liverpool are trying to do going back to back?
Well, since you've asked, I think Arsenal are the team to look at when you talk about challenging Liverpool, because The one piece they were really missing was a goal scorer, a true number 9. They finally got him, Victor Gyökeres. I love the fact that he can also create. He's a chance creation machine. So he's scoring goals, but he's also creating chances. And they have depth now. Madueke, I think, is going to be one of the most underrated signings of the window. But if they get Eze, I'm telling you right now, this team will win a trophy. Everyone's talking about, Arsenal, they compete, they never win anything. They get Eze, you have depth on the left, the right, and up the mid, down the middle, down the spine. I am absolutely loving what they've done in this summer transfer window. If they get Eze, it'll be probably the best summer transfer window of all time for Arsenal.
Well, Mikel Arteta is overdue to deliver a trophy to this Arsenal club. But let's take a look now at Barcelona, because they're another team that are one of the favorites to complete a treble. They did it domestically last season, but the European treble is what they're after. And this was, Darian, a really young team that I think really impressed a lot of us last season with how they just really came together and ran away in, La Liga in some stretches, how they competed in the Champions League. Why do you think that they could be more primed to win a European treble this year compared to last?
You remember those losses. You remember falling out. Remember watching the heartbreak from the Champions League when they didn't win that match. These young players, led by Lamine Yamal, a young phenom, now going into that, having that in the back of your mind when you go into major tournaments, anytime you're facing against somebody, seeing all of the backlash even he personally gets, you want to go out and show your stuff and prove it. And I actually think this is one of those teams that we talked about at the beginning of the segment was the timing's right. You have young players coming into their prime. You have older players like a Lewandowski, who's still a goal-scoring machine that can lead the team from the front line. I think it's kind of a perfect storm going into this next season with that loss on your mind.
Do you think Marcus Rashford will have a big impact this season for them?
I want him to so bad. I think he needs it. Do I think he'll be more of an impact player? Yes. Do I think he's going to start and have that big of an effect on this team? I don't.
Isn't that kind of a perfect situation for Rashford, Tony, do you think?
Well, I would think a guy like him wants to play all the time, right?
Yeah.
And he's going to be in a rotation, but keep in mind, they're going to play a boatload of games. We showed Hansi Flick. You just wonder what he learned in that Champions League semifinal, right? Because they had one style of play, and I still think in the end we got cheated out of what could have been the most incredible Champions League final had it been Barcelona and PSV.
Agreed.
Or PSG, I'm sorry. But Hansi Flick, he's done such a great job of taking a young group of players. He wasn't the guy that everyone said, oh, this is the guy you need to go get. And it was from start to finish. So there was one thing missing last year, and that was defending for 10 minutes in a game, which would have maybe flipped the entire season. And we're talking about Barcelona in a completely different way.
Okay, it's only July. We love making bold predictions here on the show, but we talked about 3 teams that have a shot at completing the treble next season. Will it be PSG going back-to-back? Can it be Liverpool, Barcelona? Who do you think is more likely of those 3 to get it done, Chuck?
I'm going to go with Liverpool. I think defensively, I really trust in this team defensively. And to go from winning the Premier League and adding the players that they did, PSG didn't add anyone that's going to make a massive impact when we're talking about Florian Wirtz, Hugo Ekitike, if they get Isak. So you went from Premier League champions to strengthening even more. I think they have the best chance to win a treble, especially Virgil van Dijk still playing like he's in his prime.
Okay, Tony, Darian?
I personally think, I agree with Charlie and all the things. I just think it's hard for Premier League teams in this day and age to win the treble because, as you said earlier, it's week in and week out with them. That's why I would pick Barcelona, because I still don't know what Real Madrid's going to look like. I still think there's an itch to now win Champions League because they missed out on it. It's just so hard for Premier League teams to win everything. It's almost, I feel like we always get to a point where they're going, what are we focusing on now?
Yeah.
Is it the League Cup or is it an FA Cup? They always get in that moment where some of the other teams don't have to deal with that.
I agree. I think it's going to be Barcelona. Looking at what they had last year, the young players, it's just adding something else besides a high back line that does an offside trap.
That's what I don't trust. I just don't trust that high
I think
line.
now that they've got that, you can easily just set off and know how to manage a game a little bit better with this young team.